welcome to Metallarium Pages, Todd. It's a great pleasure to talk or to have with this interview with you. So we can talk about Queensrÿche, this new album, Digital Noise of Aliens, and other things related to the music. So first of all, how have you been? How has the band during these crazy times? Because we started a pandemic 2 years ago. Now war started in Europe, so a crazy time. So who knows what happened next couple of years? Alien invasion, zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, we've been really busy doing a bunch of fly dates, one-off shows. Um, we're out for 10 days. It was like brutal travel, so I think I caught a little cold uh, on the road. But yeah, we've got a bunch of shows for the rest of this month. I leave Friday, and then we go back out with Judas Priest in October and November. Um, you there? Oh, okay, your camera froze for a minute. It's frozen. Anyway, so yeah, lots of stuff with that, and then we'll do a proper ground tour for the new album in March of next year. So we'll be playing many songs off of that new album. Um, yeah, crazy time. Like you said, there's a war going on over in Europe, and 16, a year and a half, 16 months or whatever of no touring, no shows, no concerts. So it feels good to be back out on the stage and with my brothers.
Okay. you are releasing you are releasing Digital Noise Aliens in the next month. So when did you decide to work on this new album? Perhaps was during the pandemic, was it before, or who knows, no? Or and what is the concept behind these Digital Noise Aliens?
Yeah, real quick, your camera's frozen, so maybe turn it off and turn it back on. Um, so we started writing this album um, right when the vaccines were coming out. So once everybody was vaccinated, then it felt a little safer to kind of all be in the same room together, and some of those guys to travel here to Florida and start working on those. So we did everything in the same room, like the good old days when a band was just writing songs together in a room instead of emailing everything back and forth. Um, so that's when it started happening, and then we recorded in January. Yeah, January of was it last year already? I can't even remember. The days are going by, but yeah, during the shutdown is when we really try to take advantage of the time, because it's really hard to write a record and get things done when you're always traveling and on a plane and stop and go, and that kind of thing. So it worked out to our advantage. I think every band was doing that.
Okay, okay. So The Verdict was a great album, so a great and this time, what can we expect from the new album in terms of sound and lyrics in this new one?
Well, the sound is some people that have heard the album already, they feel that there is that little bit of a vintage sound. I think that probably comes from using all of the old guitar amps that Michael used for all the old records. He brought all of his Marshalls over from The Warning, Rage for Order, Operation Mindcrime, Empire, Promised Land. So he brought all those amps over. And depending on what the style and feel of the song was, he would experiment with different amps to see what sounded the best for that song. The drums were recorded in this huge mansion, this really big room with these amazing ceilings and wood beams, and was perfect for capturing the drums. So all the drums are completely original. A lot of bands will record the drums and then end up sound replacing the toms and the snare and all this other stuff. And we wanted to stay away from all that and just have it very real. Um, and then, the lyrical content is on par with what Queensrÿche does. We write songs about social issues and um, different relationships between people, and you know, a lot of geopolitical things. So it's kind of a common thread through all the Queensrÿche albums that this kind of these topics are talked about. You know, we're not a rock band that writes songs about girls and fast cars and rock and roll, you know, that whole cliche rock and roll or heavy metal. We fight to the end because we're brothers with, you know, made of steel. You know, we don't write stuff like that. So, um, you know, it's I would consider mature lyrical content and thought provoking and, you know, classic Queensrÿche fashion.
Okay, okay. Well, you talking about other aspects. You are released a solo album, Rejoice in Suffering, a year ago. How do you choose which songs can go to solo album or a Queensrÿche album? Because you play drums, guitar, you're a vocal, so it's very. You're a multi instrumental man.
Um, well, a lot of, I mean, there's a couple of things that, you know, could have definitely been on a Queensrÿche album that Craig Blackwell, who was my co-writer and partner on my solo record, you know, he wrote the music for Crossroads to Insanity. That would have been a perfect type of song for Queensrÿche. But a lot of the stuff that I write typically is more thrash. It's heavier than kind of the Queensrÿche sound. So sometimes I'll have an idea and I'll show it to the guys, but most of the time I try not to do that. I try to save the things that I really like for myself, and I let those guys do the songwriting. And if I have like an idea when I'm hearing them create something, I might interject and say, "Oh, what about this?" Or, you know, I have this one little thing, maybe this would work. But I don't write full songs for Queensrÿche. I save those for myself.
Okay, okay. Oh, okay, okay. So, also, inspiration sometimes cannot be around all the time, especially when we are living with a lot of uncertainty due to the last pandemic, war in Europe, all the bad things that may happen around the world in the last few years. So, how do you find inspiration for making two records in the last 2 years?
Well, I mean, a lot of the I like to write about what I see, kind of like a reporter. You know, you observe and report, and I'm always paying attention. I try to stay current on what's happening around the world, not just in the United States, but different places. Um, and a lot of the writing that I do usually stems from the darker side of life, the negative things, and I might portray that to expose something or maybe to get the listener to think, but then try to have a positive spin at the by the end of the song. I try to have an uplifting message about something tragic, but I typically write from a tragedy foundation.
Which so we are living in a we are living in a world that the new generation prefers to hear the albums with one song, and mostly people prefers to the band with one or maximum five songs for all career. So, which are related to this? Which was your favorite song to compose or record on this new album, and which was the most difficult song for you, talk for the especially for the single times?
Um, that's a tough question. You know, I like a lot of the songs for different reasons. I really like doing the ballad called Forest because it was something that wasn't strenuous. It was more delicate. Um, you know, and it's a very meaningful song. Seems to resonate with a lot of people. Um, I like, you know, we released a video for a song called Behind the Walls. I really like that song. Um, as far as a challenge, you know, Eddie, when Eddie writes songs and he'll create a vocal melody, a lot of times he will sing the idea in a register that's like my upper chest voice, and it's like almost too high for my chest voice and a bit low for my mixed voice. So his songs are always the hardest for me to sing. Those two were Nocturnal Light and Realms. His songs are always a challenge for me because he wrote those and already had some melodies and lyrics, and so I tried to do what he wanted. So I would say, anytime Eddie's writing a song, it's usually one of the harder ones for me to sing and record. It takes many tries to get right. And the most fun for me was probably doing the cover Rebel Yell, because I love that song since I was a little kid, and I sang that song about 5 times, and every time was really great. And we just went through each time and said, "Oh, you did a little better on this verse. There was something special here. Let's take that verse. Oh, you did these choruses great." So we comped them. But that was probably the most fun because I just knew the song so well, and it reminded me of my youth. And it's a fun song that everybody seems to like, and I love the song. So that was the most fun to record, was Rebel Yell.
Mm. Nice, nice to hear that. So you work again with Sus. So how important has become for Queensrÿche sounds nowadays?
He's very important to what we've created because he was there from the very beginning of the songwriting sessions. Also, he understands the back catalog. He knows all of the history of the band. He knows what sounds we've already done recently and to maybe stay away from. He knows what sounds the band might have done way back in the day that we haven't done, like the keyboard, the synthesizer stuff. Could be something that you might have heard on Rage for Order. So he's really good about understanding the style and the sound without being redundant. And he knows all of our personalities, so he's really great at getting the best performances out of us and inspiring us, not making us feel like we didn't do a good job. Like some people, hang on a sec. Some people will press you on, like, you know, they're just the way that they tell you to do something. Again, if my voice is tired or I'm not having a good day, they'll say no problem. Maybe we'll work on some other harmonies, some lower harmonies for another song, or maybe just take a break and we'll start doing some more guitars. He's very fundamental to how these last 3 albums have turned out. I mean, without him, they would not be what they are, for sure.
Well, well, the singles from the last album, well, for this last album, are great. So, do these singles represent the overall sound from Digital Noise Alliance? How do you choose the singles and order that the songs in an album, which is sometimes I consider very important, is something that the band does, or does the label have something to say about it? Perhaps this label say this much better than the band selected.
I mean, I think the label has been great with giving us creative freedom to write the songs that we write and release the songs in the order that we feel good releasing. I think a lot of bands have to deal with the label listening to demos before they record, or them just choosing the songs. We choose the songs. Um, you know, we put out the first single in Extremis because it was just a straightforward rocker. It wasn't too complicated. It had a nice upbeat tempo. Normally on the second one, we would typically put out another rocker, and we decided to throw a curveball and put out the ballad, the slow song, which threw a lot of people for a loop. Everybody's putting out heavy music. Everybody's trying to be so heavy and that kind of thing. And we thought, you know what, if we put this ballad out, it's really going to separate us from 99% of all the bands out there that are putting out new music. I think this will stand out. We all thought that. Turned out to be the right move. It had a great video with it. And then the third one was another rocker. So I think it was the right decision. Like you said, a lot of people just pay attention to singles rather than the whole album experience, especially the younger generation. So I think we did the right thing selecting those songs, and we have more that'll be coming out, obviously. There'll be a new one coming out the day of the album release with a video. And then we have more videos to release throughout the year into next year. So that's pretty much how that works for us.
In addition to previous question, I consider the singles very important to catch the fans' attention in times where every time goes fast and the digital platforms give us access to too much music. So, also, the order of the songs in the album can help to keep the listener's attention during their whole record, especially nowadays when the most people focus more on singles. Or
Right.
we are a cyclic time because in the 40s and 50s the people listen to singles at that time. So how important is this aspect for you as a band? What can we do to encourage or to motivate the fans to listen to full albums again instead of just singles or doing playlist?
That's a really good question. Like you said, there's so much music out there that people can choose from. They just click on one song. And if they hear the one song, maybe they don't like that song. They don't bother with the whole record. They think, oh, that's what the record sounds like. And it's not the case with us. I mean, every song is there's a lot of variety on this record. So if you heard the song Forest, the slow one, you would have no idea that you have the other songs that we have. You would think that you wouldn't know that we had the heavier stuff or whatever. Um, it's very important when we sequence the album, when the album's done, when it's all recorded and finished. What we do is we look at how many fast songs and slow songs or mid-tempo songs there are, and then we create. Um, we we take the beginning of the song, about 15-20 seconds, and then we go to the end of the song, and then we transition into what we think would be the best next song after that one. So we create a short sequence of all the songs and see if the key changes flow into the next song properly. Sometimes a song ends, and when the next song starts, it's a different key, and it could maybe sound odd or weird. So we take that into consideration. We do that on our live shows too. What's the last chord going to be, and what's the first chord going to be of the next song? So we put a lot of work into sequencing the album so it's one nice, complete, full experience. And a lot of, like you say, a lot of the younger generation, they don't know what that's like we used to do. You used to put a cassette tape in before CDs. You couldn't skip to the next song like that. So, our generation is used to a full experience of an album and reading the lyrics and the liner notes and the kind of equipment that was used and who did what. Nowadays, these kids, they don't know, they really don't get too much into that. I think a lot of heavy metal fans still kind of embrace that, even the younger kids, but I don't know how to engage the younger people into a full album experience because streaming has kind of replaced that experience where people are just listening to one song from different artists every time. It's instead of listening to the full record. So I don't know.
Mhm. Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. As you said, when I'm the old guy, I have 42, and I listen to music as you, like first tapes, then CDs. Oh, that's for me. It's very different. I prefer to hear
Yeah.
the album. So, into this, so I know that every new album is special for the band since the beginning to now. So, what does this album means in Queensrÿche's career?
I don't know that it means anything more than we're still creating new music and you know um we're still relevant. We're not a band that stopped making albums 10 years ago and we just play the old stuff. We do play new stuff. We're going to be playing a lot more of the albums I was a part of on the next ground tour in March supporting this new record. I anticipate we'll be playing 4 or 5 songs off of this record, a couple from The Verdict, Condition Human, the self-titled, and then you'll still have the classics into the set as well. But I think the special thing is we just still have it enjoy creating music together and recording it. You know, it's like being a painter. You don't want to just paint the same painting for the next 20 years. You want to keep creating new paintings, even if people aren't looking at them. I mean, some people just paint for the love of painting and nobody sees their work, but that's okay. They're still creative and they're doing something. So that's kind of how we feel.
Mm. Yes, 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 yes. So, also, how do you feel about releasing this new album compared to the times when you joined the band and released the self-titled album?
How do I feel now? I would say, you know, I feel very comfortable with my role in the band and my involvement, whether it's through the artwork, um, the songwriting, lyrics, you know, all of the creative decisions that are involved with the band. I'm usually a part of. You know, I feel very comfortable, and I think after 10 years of being in the band, I'm not really worried about is somebody gonna like this or not like my voice or whatever. Like I just do what I do, and I feel like I've proven myself uh, to people what I'm capable of as a songwriter and a contributor to the band and that kind of thing.
Okay. I know that all of us have our own favorite records from Queensrÿche. This is subjective because we like our record not only for the music but also for the memories attached to the to that music. So in that case of Queensrÿche, when we mention the band, most people would think about albums from the early times of the band. Considering this, so do you as the band feel some kind of pressure when you have to compose a record or compose and record new album? I mean, do you feel that you are competing with yourself as a band?
Sometimes, you know, sometimes you feel like you want to write that masterpiece like Operation Mindcrime again. You know, like man, it would be great if we could create something like that. But we've never tried to create a concept album since I've been in the band, which can change the entire dynamic of how you songwrite. And that's something that we will probably do on the next record. But um, you also have to just say, you know what, um, we can't really worry about what the band already did. We just have to do what we do now, and sometimes you create something that's really magical, like Operation Mindcrime, even though that's not my favorite Queensryche album. My favorite Queensryche album of all time is The Warning, and I do have great memories in my teenage years listening to that album and playing it in my car and all the things that involve that time in my life. But um, you know, we're mindful of the legacy, but we don't let it psych us out where we feel. I mean, we it's a motivator, but I don't think we try to purposefully like be so clever to outdo that. We just write the songs that we write, and whatever ends up being written is what ends up being written.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what are your plans after releasing the new album? Are there any chance to see you touring in this part of the world? Talking about Latin American, especially.
Um, well, we're going to be touring on it extensively. We were supposed to do a South American tour, which included, you know, Chile, Argentina, Brazil. I think Peru was in there. I'm not sure, but that got canceled like two times and got moved. So I don't I don't see any South American dates on the calendar right now, but you know, COVID really messed a lot of that up. So hopefully we'll be there in the next year or two because we've never toured South America in the last 10 years since I've been in the band. And I think it would be great for everybody. I think we would have great turnouts to finally see Queensryche again. Um, we'll see, but we have a lot of things happening, and people are working very hard to make that happen.
Okay, okay. Now talking about other topics, you still play drums as we could listen to on your solo record. but also you have been working as a vocalist for more than 10 years. So how has been your experience during these transitions from performing on the back of the stage to going to the front?
Um, at first it was very different because uh, I'm comfortable behind the drums. That was where I always played. And when you're out front, the spotlight's on you. Everyone's looking at you. Um, because you're moving around. The drums are stationary, but typically, the singer and the guitar, the people up front are getting a little bit more focus. Um, it was a little uncomfortable at first because you don't have your blanket. The drums were my blanket. Now it's okay, except for the fact that when you don't feel well, you can hear it. If you're sick or have a cold and you're the drummer or the guitar player, you wouldn't. It doesn't sound any different. I mean, you may not feel like you're playing as well, but the sound of the instrument remains the same. When you're the singer, this is your body is your instrument, and so if you have a head cold or sinus problems or a sore throat from talking or multiple nights of singing, the next show can be affected. And of course, everybody has a camera and puts it on YouTube, and then the whole world can see every time that you didn't sing great. So that's more challenging. That's a stress that singers have to deal with that everybody else in the band doesn't have to deal with. They don't have to worry if their instrument's not going to sound good that night. It always sounds good. And the singers it's a different animal. So that's a different kind of pressure to have to deal with.
Yeah. Furthermore, you have been with Queensrÿche for almost 10 years, and this is your fourth record until now. How do you feel about what you achieved with the band until now? The media and fans' response talking about it. So, because it's always difficult to replace a vocalist in a band like Queensrÿche. I mean, we have examples from iconic bands that went through a vocalist change and the experience was not good at all for the band and the vocalist, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I feel fortunate for the band and for myself that it worked. Um, there are other singers, like you said, that have joined bands. Maybe they did one record and it might have been a great record. They might have been really great, but for some reason the audience didn't embrace it the same, or I don't know. I feel like after 10 years, most of the Queensryche fans have embraced the change and they feel like the band is back to putting out the music that they liked after several albums of music that was much softer and lighter. It didn't really sound like the Queensryche that we grew up learning and listening to. So I feel happy about that, and there's more music for us to create as a band. I have no complaints.
Hmm. Okay, well, we are very close to this interview, Todd. And talking about, especially now, as we a week ago we were talking about some friends here in Metal, about the artificial intelligence because we saw a video about the software that can create art with words and with or descriptions that we can introduce. So the results were impressive at that time when we saw that artificial intelligence. DALL-E. Probably something like this is maybe happening with the music in the future. So who knows? It's possible. So or maybe bands will make their cover art by using this IE. So what do you think will happen with art once these IEs are available for everyone?
I have no idea. The technology is always changing. It's growing fast. People are very creative with how to incorporate that into their business. Um, it moves really quickly. I mean, they were doing hologram shows of Ronnie James Dio. So, just as one example of technology. So I really don't know where that's going to take us into the music aspect, but I guess we'll wait and see.
Yes. Also, in the era we enter YouTube. So, and we can find a thousand of skillful musicians and great singers making awesome playthrough videos or covers. So, but on other hand, this doesn't mean that they can make great sounds or albums. Or for example, realities for singers where the winner can be an awesome singer, but after the reality show finishes, the singer disappears completely. So how do you see this phenomenon?
I think everybody's trying to get famous quick and they're not putting in the work. You know, I was growing up in bands playing in nightclubs my whole life, you know, and I think people think they're going to be an instant star because of YouTube, or they're very famous on YouTube, but they've never played in an actual nightclub and, you know, built it up that way. Everybody's trying to build it up kind of artificially through social media, but they might have a million followers on YouTube or subscribers, but if they were trying to sell tickets in any city around the United States, they wouldn't sell 100 tickets a night. It doesn't translate the same. It's easy to click subscribe. It takes effort and dedication to pay for money for a ticket and go see somebody. So, you know, everyone's looking for that quick fame, the easy way. Even if they put a lot of work into practice, that's great. But you know, there's a lot of singers online that sound awesome, but they've never toured. They've never dealt with the brutal travel schedule and the demands of performing live. You know, these guys are lip syncing on their YouTube videos. They record it perfectly. They do it 1,000 times till it's right. Then they stand in front of a microphone with headphones on and they sing it. But what you're seeing and what you're hearing are not the same. They're singing to themselves.
Well, Todd, the sad times arrive at this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one like me.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Perhaps you want to add something to your Latin American fans and Metalerium followers.
I would just say thank you for the support. We hope to come where you are in the very near future. We'd love to see you guys and play for you guys. And thanks for supporting Queensrÿche after all these years.